joined us just in time for qualifying 3 of the weekend. Yes, that's it. 3 races for you coming up this weekend. Bit of a chilly morning here in Monza. That weather doesn't look too good in the background, does it? But forecast is due to be dry all day. Now, if you missed yesterday, essentially so far we have had 2 qualifying sessions and 1 race. So the grid is already set for the first race of the day. This qualifying session will set the grid for the last race of the weekend, which will be at 40 minutes past 3 local time here in Italy. So an extended timetable for this weekend. It's going to happen one more time this season to make up for Hockenheim. Cars going out onto the circuit already. Now, what did we learn from qualifying yesterday? Well, slipstream is everything. I think anyone who watches single-seater racing, that won't come as a surprise to you at all. Teammates using each other to slipstream each other and get good times in. We reckon it's sort of 6 or 7 tenths the drivers were gaining by getting a good tow. This was where, going down to Ascari, that particularly the Crypto Tower teammates in Yiffy and Lucas Dunner, there they would move over, the driver head would move over, let the other one through, and then the next lap the roles would reverse. So essentially that was how we found the teams were doing it, and I'm sure we're going to see pretty much more of the same this weekend. The Carlin teams did it as well, but not to a hugely good effect on that occasion. Well, it was a good race yesterday. I think it was a very good race, actually. Lots of slipstream. We had 5-way battle for the lead in the first few minutes of the race, and then a real hectic battle for second. Yiffy was given about a second lead. He turned that into 2 seconds straight away, and then he was never seen again. Lucas Dunner did close that gap down to around a second by the end of the race, but he was just a little bit too far ahead to catch Yiffy and got his 6th win of the season. Behind, though, it was all going off in the battle for second. Finishing second was Lucas Dunner, as I said. Nicholas Cruton would emerge in 3rd place. Behind that, we had the likes of Cameron Daz and Manuel Maldonado battling away. Plenty of drivers getting involved. Zane Maloney and Ayrton Simmons had a battle which lasted all the way to the flag. Some drivers going off towards the end, 1 or 2 incidents. We had Alexandra Bardignon beached in the gravel at Ascari for the final few laps. You are seeing Ido Cohen. He had some dramas himself. And there we can see Maldonado and Cruton. That is Lucas Dunner, who finished second. And to be honest, when he jumped out of the car, I think he realised that it could have been a bit of a better result. He could have challenged for the win. However, I think he would have taken second going into the race. He qualified 7th for that first race yesterday morning. Went from 7th to 3rd at the very first corner, just dived down the outside of everyone and basically emerged in 3rd place. It was a real brilliant move from the Austrian. Thanks for joining the live coverage. My name's Chris McCarthy. Elliot Wood will be alongside me as ever, just to bring you up to speed where we are in terms of points. Now, Yiffy has 180 points. He is almost 100 points clear of Andreas Essner, who has 83. The gap between Andreas and Manuel Maldonado has closed down further. Manuel Maldonado now on 72. 4th, despite this only being his 2nd round, is Lucas Dunner. He's tied on points with Ido Cohen. Continuing his good forms, 2 podiums on the bounce for Nicholas Cruton. He moves up to 6 with 57 points. And then it's Sebastian Essner, who had a good round yesterday. Zane Maloney, who scored points yesterday for the first time in 3 races. Didn't score a huge amount, but scored 4 points. He's on 49, Ayrton Simmons on 46. Glenn Van Berle rounds out the top 10 on 25 points. Cameron Daz picked up quite a few points yesterday, but like Dunner, this is only his 2nd round. He scored the fastest lap of the race as well, so it could be one to watch here. In terms of the qualifying results, yesterday in qualifying 1, it was Yiffy with a 143.5 from Nicholas Cruton and Cameron Daz, and in qualifying 2, the quickest time was a 143.4. So that's the kind of times that they were looking at from yesterday. And speaking of yesterday, let's hear a little bit more about it. Let's bring in Elliot Woods. Elliot, what were your thoughts on yesterday? It was a pretty good race, wasn't it?
Yep, and it was a pretty chaotic qualifying session as well. We had all of the action you could possibly want from junior single-seaters at Monza, and the result was actually a penalty for the provisional pole sitter and a very late night meeting for two of the teams. Yes,
so that was for you, wasn't it? This was for the blocking we saw, or the failing to get out of the way we saw.
Yep, so down the pit straight, he kind of held up Manuel Maldonado by swerving across twice, 2 laps in a row, and he ended up getting a 2-place grid penalty for one of the races later today. Obviously, that doesn't impact this qualifying session, where Maldonado is currently at the top of the times. He had his previous lap time deleted, and I expect he'll have the current one as well for track limits abuse at turn 11, and that has proven the case. We've now got Zane Maloney, who's had a torrid time of late, but he's now at top of the times of 1:45.995, and all of the teams will be wanting to work on their slipstreaming game plan, you could call it, working together. But we're actually seeing all of these drivers pretty, broken up, and you've got a motor park, then a Carlin, then Van Amersfoort, then another motor park. So they're very mixed up at the moment.
Yeah, that EFU penalty, by the way, that means Lucas Stunner will be on pole position with Andreas Essner alongside for the first race of the day. So do join us for that one. It's going to give a chance to the likes of Yi and Essner to go on and take a victory. Now let's talk quickly about tyres, because we have this extended timetable. I'm sure many people have questions over, does this change the situation with tyres? Just tell us what the score is, how many sets they get.
So Michelin supplies a set amount of rubber for each weekend, and you actually can carry that across to other rounds of the season. So it does work well if you look after those tyres and make them last as long as possible. Obviously in qualifying you want to get the absolute maximum amount of tyre, but with 3 races this weekend, that means you kind of have to ration your supply more than usual. And we saw in one of the first qualifying sessions, Manuel Maldonado ran significantly fewer laps than everyone else to save that rubber. And I think this time, because it's the last qualifying session day and there's only 2 more races to go, I think everyone will be going flat out in this session.
So how many new sets do they get, and when will they be using those, do you think?
I'm not sure how many new sets to get this weekend, because we've had an extended timetable from 2 races to 3 races. So I would expect the usual supply to be increased, but I haven't got guarantee of that from Michelin. And obviously they do expect them to bring along rubber from previous rounds that's already been scrubbed, is the word. It's already been used for a few laps, because that's, it's already gripping, it's already good for the tyre surface.
And that usual supply is?
I can't tell you right now.
Oh, there we go. Yes, we will come back to that. But here's Sebastian Essner, 1:44.315. Not a bad time. I suspect we're going to go a little bit quicker, but it's pretty cold out there at the moment, isn't it? But at this time, yesterday, the pole time was 1:43.5, and qualifying was basically exactly the same time, wasn't it? So realistically, we're expecting to see them knock off a second.
Yeah, and the track was significantly less rubbered in yesterday. We'd had overnight rain from Thursday to Friday and Friday to Saturday. And obviously we'd had less track sessions up to that point, whereas we've had several races, several qualifying sessions, no rain, and a lot of driving over the last 24 hours. So this track, while it is cool right now, should be quicker than it was at this point yesterday.
Into Ascari, Sebastian Essner going quicker, positions to the left, many people in the pits. This is usually when we see them come into the pits, so they've gone out there, basically had a couple of sighting laps and then come straight back in.
Yeah, well, they don't want to waste their rubber, as we said, and obviously if you look at the different teams that are remaining on track, you've got the Van Amersfoort lineup in full, Glenn Van Berlo, who's the only driver at school car, and then every other driver is basically staying in the pits with their teammates. However, I can hear some engines rumbling, and I do believe
Lucas Stunner is coming out.
Yeah, Lucas Stunner has come out, and possibly a few more drivers are going to set off.
Yep. We're seeing Rui Andrade just come out.
So the Crypto Tower Racing lineup's out in full. They should be working together after last night's meeting.
I think what they've done is waited for a clear track, and then they're going to come out and...
and that's a mistake straight away from Yiffy, cutting through the first chicane.
I've got to say, he won't like watching that one back. A mistake coming out of the pit lane in qualifying.
It does show how cold it is right now, because that's how cold the brakes and the tyres are. That he wasn't even travelling at speed, and as soon as he hit the brake pedal, you know, they just locked up.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to do it, then qualifying is the best place to do it, right? So no problems. Just his outlap goes straight through. Yifei yet another win yesterday. He's continuing to assert himself as almost the provisional championship winner with 180 points. He can miss at this stage. He can go and miss a few rounds, and it really wouldn't make a difference for him, would it?
Yeah, and yesterday he won the race from the front. Led lights to flag at Monza, which is, you know, a venue which always provides slipstream classics for this kind of level of single-seaters. And we saw that at every position behind Yifei, and he just sat at the front watching his teammates squabble behind him, and he ended up taking the win.
Well, he's had over 100 laps in the lead so far this season, which is incredible.
Yeah, it's a very strong run, and we see this quite frequently in Euroformula. One driver kind of gets into their groove, their zone, and they just go on a winning spree. And that does launch them to great things. Felipe Drugovich won the 2018 title. He's won 2 races in Formula 2 this year as a rookie. Marino Sato, he's gone up to Formula 2. Ed Jones, he went to IndyCar. Sandy Stuvik, I think he went to GT racing.
Yes,
so,
Blancpain, yeah.
Yeah, lots of successful graduates from this series, especially the champions.
Yeah, Vitor Baptista went to Formula V8 3.5 series as well. Pulcini has moved up in the single-seater ranks as well.
Pulcini's now a Lamborghini Junior in the Italian GT series.
And Harrison Scott went over to Pro Mazda, so he basically travelled around Pro Mazda and then Asian F3 as well.
Well, Scott actually followed one of the Euroformula teams to America, and then he kind of came back to Europe, set up his own, became a part of a driver coaching program, and he actually supports Zane Maloney in Euroformula because he's part of the Kokoro kind of performance group that helps young drivers.
Well, here we can see the Crypto Tower team getting themselves ready. One of the stats, I don't want to put people off, but Yifei and Lucas Gunnar basically led the whole championship between them on track. But yesterday, it was a 5-way battle for the lead. It just basically, Lucas Gunnar made a move down at made an attempted move at the last corner for second, and that basically released Yifei off into the distance. And Lucas Gunnar wasn't quite able to close him down, but Lucas Gunnar will lead from pole for the first race, so it's going to be a very interesting one.
Yeah, it'll be the first time we see Ye, starting properly back in the pack of sorts.
By his standards,
yeah. But as we saw yesterday, there's a bump kind of halfway down this pit straight, and the starting grid is quite far beyond that. But it means that if you make a very good start, you've got a very long run to the first corner, and you can very easily overtake cars. As we saw with Dunny yesterday, 7th place to 3rd before he'd even reached the first corner.
It was a real brilliant start, definitely one worth going to watch back. But Andreas Essner, he'll fancy a potential go down the inside. One thing we did see actually, I don't know if you got to speak to Nicholas Cruton at all yesterday, but his launch off the line was quite poor actually, wasn't it? Did you manage to catch up with a few of the drivers yesterday and speak about the start of the race? Because I don't know if it was just him, but it seemed the inside, unsurprisingly, was the worst. It didn't help him at all being on the inside of the circuit.
Yeah, so that's the less rubbing in line, and also I think you could almost say most of the drivers make a bad start. The clutch is very tricky on this Dallara 320. It's very hard to get right, so most drivers kind of get it half right, but because they're all doing it roughly at the same level, it looks like no one's made a bad start, and someone who does master it perfectly, like Lucas Dunner did yesterday, it looks like they've done a brilliant job. Which I guess they have, because it's so tricky. And we're seeing more drivers skate through the first chicane.
Well, they've just done that on purpose, haven't they?
Quite potentially. Lucas Dunner has actually just came out the pit, so he's going to come into traffic behind them potentially. Those 2 of the Van Amersfoort cars and Ido Cohen potentially.
Well, one of them did it, and the rest of them followed them through. That was quite bizarre.
Strategy.
I don't know. Very confusing.
And the team looks a bit perplexed as well.
That's Harrison
probably
Scott,
wasn't part of the game plan.
Or does that
that's just a Van Amersfoort racing employee.
A Harrison Scott lookalike.
Yeah, we've got the third VAR car slowly moving out the pits now. Alexandre Bardignon. So the two Esner brothers are the ones who went through the first chicane. Now potentially, because we are actually seeing people just doing sighting laps and come back in, sighting laps come back in, and no improvements at the top of the times, that they have realised they're not going to go for a flying lap and they just want to get back to pit lane as quickly as possible.
Maybe. Bizarre, I don't know, potentially. The number 16 you are looking at, that is Andreas Esner. This is his brother Sebastian, and I think Rui Andrade was the car behind, no, it was Ido Cohen, wasn't it? But Ascari, that was where we had, speaking of Rui Andrade, quite a bizarre incident for him yesterday in qualifying.
It's at this point in the session where it kind of descended into chaos. So the Crypto Tower racing team were working together. Yifie was letting past Lucas Dunn on the run to Ascari. They were alternating, and Manuel Maldonado was supposed to be doing that with someone else, but he had no one to do it with. He joined the back of these two, and he tried overtaking Ye down the straight. That's what got Ye's penalty, and that brought Rui Andrade in as well. And when Ye tried letting past Dunner on one of these attempts, Dunner just didn't do anything, and ended up meaning Andrade went past all of them, got to the front, and then when he tried letting past Ye the next time around Ascari, he actually did it at the last moment, because obviously he wasn't part of that plan. He was supposed to be doing the same thing with someone else, and he ended up just spinning into the gravel and then onto the grass.
Yeah, it was a bit of a strange one. Rui Andrade didn't really have a good day yesterday, so let's hope that he can turn things round today, because he did show good pace at times in the qualifying sessions, but he hasn't set a lap. As you can see, 10 seconds, he's only done 3 laps, and those sighters, 6 laps, sorry.
He hasn't improved since lap 3. In fact, we haven't seen anyone improve since, well, actually Ayrton Simmons has just jumped up to second place, so 1:45.1666, 8/10 of a second off Sebastian Esner, but that is first improvement we've seen in the last 8 minutes.
That's not really the lap. Oh, here are the Esner brothers. Now, this is going to be Andreas, the car ahead, letting Sebastian through out of Ascari chicane, I imagine. Let's have a look and see if that is the case. They come out of Ascari chicane. Andreas pulling over to the left. He's getting a tow himself from Maldonado. He's now pulling over to the inside to let Sebastian through, and the brothers working together here. Maldonado letting them both through. I think he wants to try and grab a tow from Andreas as they come through the final corner. Sebastian setting the fastest first and middle sector. The only person he can go and beat is himself as he comes up to the line. Let's see if this is a good time. It is 1:44.2. Again, it's 7/10 slower than the time we saw at this time yesterday in the first qualifying session. But it puts him to the top, and by 1 second. Oh, a cloud of smoke. Someone's had a big lockup going into turn 1. Now it will be Sebastian's turn in the 15 to let Andreas through.
And look who the bottom 4 positions are right now. Lucas Dunner, Yifie Ye, Manuel Maldonado and Rui Andrade. That is the Crypto Tower team that has dominated this season so far, and they are at the very bottom of the timesheet.
This is where they were yesterday, though. Yifie Ye goes second, so they are now beginning to up the ante a little bit.
And I think Andreas Esner will be the next driver to watch. He set the flying first sector, the fastest of anyone. I think we're following his brother Sebastian now.
He's about to give him a tow, isn't he?
Yeah, provisional poleman. So he'll probably let him past after this corner, the second Lesmo, on the run down to Ascari.
Yep, so he'll start slowing down a bit to let Andreas get the tow. Or he'll do that after Ascari. He'll essentially just lift off the throttle, and Andreas will get the tow all the way then down to the final corner. He wants to keep a gap into Ascari because he doesn't want to have the front of Andreas' car washing out. Let's see then as they come down to Ascari.
Yeah, and Dave Maloney's just jumped up to second place with a 1:44.4. He's 2/10 off Esner. I think Sebastian Esner potentially could improve as well.
Nicholas Cruton goes up to second, 1,000th off Sebastian Esner, who we look at, who didn't slow down actually. He decided to stay ahead. So Andreas, his brother, didn't get the tow from him. Maybe they're going to do that on this lap as we go up to the line. Andreas nevertheless goes quickest, 1:44.086. So a good time from Andreas.
And Lucas Dunn has set the fastest first sector of anyone, personal best in middle sector. He's currently last place, but I would expect him to jump up to second or first as he comes down through Ascari at the moment.
Well, let's have a look at Ayrton Simmons first of all, because he's gone purple through the middle sector and was a personal best first sector, and I believe this might be him coming up to the line. This is Lucas Dunner. We can see Simmons in that as well. Lucas Dunner goes to 4th place. Ayrton Simmons is coming round the final corner, so we'll see him on his way to the line shortly. Dunner goes up to 4th place to make it less than 2 tenths between the top two. Here is Ayrton Simmons now coming up to the line, being trailed by Zane Maloney. Let's see what he does. He goes to pole provisionally, 1:44.014, and considering he qualified 11th for the first race yesterday, that is a very good time for Simmons. He's given himself a good chance
Well,
there.
we've still got 4 minutes to go, so I'd expect times to improve by at least half a second at the moment. I think he would have got a toe from Zane Maloney there. While he is ahead of Maloney, that middle sector time likely would have come because he was trailing Maloney prior to Ascari. We've got the second Carlin car, Maloney's teammate. He's actually, well, very quick in the first sector, not so much in the second sector, and Yiffa beaten his first sector time. So Yiffa is now fastest of all in the first sector. Sebastian Essner's now just set the fastest second sector time. So the track is definitely getting faster. I think the sunshine has actually just broken through the clouds as well, so it's getting a little warmer too.
This is Ido Cohen, the number 6. Through the final corner he comes. Basically, the qualifying session has now officially started. Qualifying 3 with just under 4 minutes to go. They're now all going to go for it all the way to the flag. Up to the line we go. We got Yiffa making his way down to the final corner. This is Ido Cohen. He'll go to 7th, 1:44.3.
Just as Essner goes to the top, and Manuel Maldonado goes second place as well. So they've both set personal best. Yiffa is trailing Dunner, so Dunner could also improve here.
Here we go then. Yiffa is making his way up through the final corner. There is the number 20, your championship leader, only beaten once this season, won yesterday for the 6th time. He heads up to the line. This could be him going to pole. Sebastian Essner did a 1:43.6, and that's exactly what Yiffa does. 22 thousandths now between them, 1:43.617. These are the kind of times we saw yesterday. It's a 1:43.639 for Sebastian Essner, who's going quicker on this lap. He's just done a purple middle sector personal best for Maldonado as well.
Yeah, and Essner was in a train of 4 cars going down the back straight, so he set the highest speed trap figure of anyone so far, 259.6 kilometers per hour, and he's going to have a double toe going through this sector. I think his teammate may have already let him past by this point.
This is Andreas ahead, so the two brothers working together. So Sebastian is the car behind.
He's lost 2 tenths.
Yeah, well, he's perhaps struggled through the Lesmos, but here we go. He might make up for it here because Andreas pulls over to the inside. That is the cue to say go by. Sebastian's going to jump in the toe, and through he goes. So that's Andreas letting his brother through. He's trying to give him a chance to go and take pole position here behind. We've got, I think, Maldonado and Cohen working together as we come round. Cruton, by the way, has just gone up to 3rd place. Brilliant lap from Nicholas Cruton. Up to the line though, will Sebastian improve, or will that middle sector cost him a chance at pole? No, 1:43.529. What a time that from Sebastian Essner, now challenging Yiffa, who's going slower on this lap, as it looks like Lucas Dunner could beat it though, Elliot.
Yeah, because Yiffa is giving Lucas Dunner a toe after Dunner did the same to him last time round. Fastest first sector of anyone, personal best in the middle sector. And he didn't have to struggle as Essner had to. He's coming through Parabolica now, stays just within track limits. He's going to jump up the order surely, but from 8th to where will he go? Here
we go, up to the line. Lucas Dunner goes to the top, 1:43.449. It's very close out there now, and they will start what will be their final laps. There's just over a minute to go, 1:43.449 from Lucas Dunner, 800ths ahead of Sebastian Essner. Yiffa is in 3rd place, Nicholas Cruton 4th, Maldonado 5th. Then it's Simmons, Andreas Essner, Maloney, Cohen, Daz, Andrade, Van Berlo, Bardignon. Who's improving? Well, Glenn Van Berlo is improving on this lap, as is Bardignon, as is Cameron Daz as well. Andreas Essner has done a personal best first sector. So those are currently the 3 drivers out there to watch, as Yiffa also does a personal best through the first sector. There we can see shots of your provisional pole sitter, Lucas Dunner, but will he be beaten? Let's find out in the next 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think Ye's timed this right, because obviously they're trading positions on who gives the other the toe, and Ye is going to be the one receiving the toe the last time round on the lap. I believe this is Cameron Daspat across the line.
He's done personal best first and second sector and goes to 8th place. So,
yeah, but he still has 17 seconds on the clock, so he can complete another lap, whereas Ye and Dunner cannot. And we're going to see Andreas Essner complete his lap. There's 9 seconds left on the clock. He might have another opportunity. He does improve in 4th place.
Yeah, he goes up to 4th, so Andreas Essner a good time, but as you said, one more lap and that's Sebastian ahead of him, so he's got a chance to get a tow here. Yiffy is in picture, Lucas Dunner is behind him, so this is it. This is the final chance. I think Yiffy would have been let by this point. He's done personal best first sector, purple in the second. Will Yiffy once again be on pole position? He heads up to the line now, trying to take his 8th pole of the season. Will he be able to do that? Yes, 143.332. Yiffy on track to get his 8th pole position. Lucas Dunner will be no higher than 2nd, but out there and improving. Nicholas Cruton is improving. Manuel Maldonado is improving. Ayrton Simmons also improving, as is Cameron Daz as well. All these drivers out there improving. Simmons crosses the line in 7th. Maloney is 9th. Andrade is 11th. Here is Nicholas Cruton. He's on for a personal best lap. Will it be good enough? He's gone purple through the first sector, personal best middle sector, and he's getting a tow there from Cameron Daz. I think that is ahead of him as they make their way down towards the final corner. Cameron Daz looking in his mirrors. He's not going quicker on this lap into the final corner. Will being behind Cameron Daz affect Nicholas Cruton here? He's got to stay within track limits. I think he's just about stayed within track limits though, but as Elliot says, that would have cost him through the final corner. Nevertheless, he goes to 2nd, 143.428, and with a clear track, I reckon Cruton there would have taken pole position, but nevertheless, a front row start once again for the German, just like qualifying 1 yesterday.
Yeah, he needed that tow from Cameron Daz, but he just got too close to him entering Parabolica, and he lost that little bit of traction as it got round the apex of the corner. And obviously it was a 10th down almost on Yiffy. I don't think he lost a 10th there, so potentially it was somewhere else around the lap.
Well, Nicholas Cruton, the young rookie, continues to impress everyone here. Everyone has now crossed the line, by the way, so those results, they are provisional, but that is how they will be. Let's run through them for you. Yiffy takes pole position once again, his 8th pole of the season, but just like he did in qualifying 1 yesterday, for the 2nd time this weekend, young Nicholas Cruton, the rookie, will start on the front row, trying to get his 3rd podium in a row. Lucas Dunner will start the last race of the weekend from 3rd place. Sebastian Essner, good job from him, the other rookie in 4th. Maldonado 5th, then it's Andreas Essner, Ayrton Simmons, Cameron Daz, Zane Maloney, and Ido Cohen-Carlin will be disappointed to be down on row 5. Just outside of the top 10, Rui Andrade 11th, Alexandre Bardignon in 12th, and Glenn Van Berlo finishes in 13th place. 1.6 seconds split the whole field, but 0.3 of a second separate the top 6. And when we said we had a 5-way battle for the lead in race 1 yesterday, I think you can see why. But there is the man who will once again start from pole position. He's become almost impossible to beat this season, and Yiffy, it doesn't even come as a surprise anymore, doesn't it? Yiffy jumps out of the car, and first for him, Lucas Dunner, well, his teammate, he'll start from 3rd. He's got a very good chance to fight for a win from there. But as does Nicholas Cruton. We'll see him in very shortly. There's Yiffy going into the scales. Pole position, 143.332, and that is the quickest time we have seen in a qualifying session this weekend. Perhaps the quickest time we have seen all weekend. The fastest lap yesterday, I believe, was a little bit slower, so Yiffy going fastest on a track that I think the temperatures did just warm up as we went along throughout that session, and that's why they were probably waiting. But what a time that was, 143.332. And to the left of picture, Nicholas Cruton pulling in. He'll jump out the car, and he will be absolutely delighted to be starting on 2nd. He has found some absolutely fine form over the last couple of rounds and has been one of the most impressive drivers of late, Nicholas Cruton.
Yeah, and there'll be a big what if, because with 4 minutes to go, we did say Ayrton Simmons was on top. He didn't improve from that lap. The only driver who didn't go any quicker through the final few minutes session ended up 6/10 off the pace in 7th. I think he could have clearly gone higher up the grid.
Well, there is the man who's going to start on pole position for the 7th time this season, Yiffy. Let's go and hear from him now.
Yiffy, that was a close one in the very, very last seconds of the session. How you feel it?
Yeah, I think to be able to achieve a good time in the qualifying Monza, you need to work with others. So Lucas and I were helping each other lap after lap. Yeah, at the end we got out better, so I was a bit more lucky than him. Yeah, but good job for the team again, 1, 2, 3, I think. So yeah, looking forward to the race this afternoon.
It's going to be two interesting races. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. As we saw yesterday, it's impossible for the leader to pull away. So, yeah, it will be two interesting races. Hopefully, yeah.
And we'll probably see you later.
Yeah,
All the
hopefully.
best.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I hope we'll see him later because we've got 2 more races coming up. One of them, he will start from 3rd and one from 1st. Let's just remind you before we go when we'll be live. Join us again for 2 races we've got coming up for you today. 11:30 local time for race 2 and 40 minutes past 3 local time for race 3. We'll see you in a couple of hours.